This week, Israel welcomed a very powerful human rights advocate from the Kurdish religious minority group, the Yazidis in Iraq. Nadia Murad was just a 19-year-old student when her village was invaded by Islamic State fighters. 6 of her brothers were murdered along with 600 others, and Murad was captured and held as a slave by the Islamic State in the city of Mosul, where she was beaten, burned, and raped. She only managed to escape when her captor left the house unlocked, and today she's a human rights activist and Nobel Peace Prize nominee and has been visiting Israel in a plea to get the Jewish state to recognize the genocide of her people. Joining us now in the studio is co-CEO of IsraAid, Israel's leading emergency aid organization, who was behind bringing Nadia to Israel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Yotam, so tell us a little bit about what IsraAid does as a whole, and then how the organization started working with the Yazidi minority.
So IsraAid right now is Israel's largest humanitarian NGO. We work in 18 countries around the world. We have a team of about 270 staff and about 1,100 volunteers from medical field, psychological field, engineering, etc. And our goal is to do 2 things: to provide support for communities facing disasters and atrocities. It could be natural disasters like the earthquake in Nepal or the earthquake in Haiti, or man-made disasters like the refugee crisis. Specifically for the Yazidis, we've been focusing a lot of our efforts since the genocide in 2014. First of all, because they need support and they really suffered from the worst atrocities a person could think of. And a number you didn't mention that I think is the most important is that as we speak right now, there are still 3,200 girls in captivity. Yeah. And now that we're seeing that ISIS is basically sort of hopefully losing the war, the concern about these girls is actually growing because we don't know whether some of these ISIS fighters will take them somewhere, back to Tunisia or to Afghanistan or God knows where. So we're really, really worried about that.
Now, why hasn't Israel recognized the Yazidi situation as a genocide?
I think it's because we haven't done enough advocacy, and sometimes these type of humanitarian issues, we need, a good ambassador to push that, and that's exactly what we're aiming to do when we brought Nadia Murad here. She has the most powerful and difficult stories. She lost 8 members of her family. She just lost her niece in another airstrike last week. Wow. And she came here while she was mourning, and we were so honored and privileged to have her and her team here.
Did you see, a change in the perception of people here on the ground and what is taking place there?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've seen a lot of interest. We had an event both in the Knesset and here in Tel Aviv University. It was packed. People were really, really interested. And a lot of people were interested in different levels, both on the politician sides of people, members of the Knesset from both sides of the political spectrum, especially.
And I understand that they're bringing a bill now to the Knesset to try to recognize the Yazidi, monstrosity as a genocide, right?
Exactly. Ksenia Svetlova, actually from the Zionist Union, she's actually the one pushing it with us, so we would really like to thank her for her efforts, because she really took the leadership. And now we're seeing that there's a lot of interest. Unfortunately, in our area, we tend to focus on internal issues that are important. I'm not saying there aren't, but if we look just behind our borders, our neighbors here are suffering, and the Yazidis specifically, they see themselves as connected, as having a shared destiny, sort of, with the Jewish state. The first Yazidis I met in Greece in a refugee camp told me that their first country of choice would be Israel if they could come here.
Absolutely.
So we really have a responsibility for these people.
Well, I have to say it is absolutely incredible the work that your organization is doing, the fact that you were able to bring somebody like this to this country for people on the ground to hear her story. And I wish that we had more time for me to ask you about the other work that IsraAid is doing, but you will be back hopefully. So thank you so much for joining us, Yotam.
Thank you.